Selection. As a preface, this video will be only for adults. So the machine is running evolution, and it's also running natural selection. And so, if you ask the question, why do both Africans and Indians have high melanin or darker skin? And the answer is that higher melanin was a mutation, and that mutation ended up being successful in regions of the planet that experience greater ultraviolet radiation, such as India and Africa. And so, basically, high melanin skin is more resistant to UV radiation and is less likely to develop skin cancer. And so via natural selection, that mutation, which was fitting for the environmental conditions, was selected for, and these people reproduced. And so you'll find that as you near the equator, the percentage of high melanin people increases. And that's why. Now, some females who are not actually near to the truth correlate high melanin with dick size, and this would be false. And so both Africans and Indians have high melanin, but the average bone press direct length in India is something like 5.12 inches, whereas in Sudan, Africa, which is actually the country with the largest size on average, is 7.1. And so, well, you say they both have melanin, why is there a size discrepancy? And from my use of the scientific method, the answer is the following. Sudan is generally hotter than India. And so if you're a male, you may understand homeostasis. When it's cold, blood goes away from your extremities, like your toes, fingers, and penis, and towards the center of your body. And so that's your body in a configuration where it says, I'm going to lose heat slower to the external environment by putting my blood deep inside instead of on the surface of my skin. And so when it's hot, the blood is going to go to the surface of your skin, and so your body's going to lose heat to the environment faster. And then you will also start sweating depending on things. Now we sweat because the evaporation of that sweat makes us lose heat even faster to the environment. So, so the whole idea is that if you're in a generally hotter place with less sort of shrinkage and homeostasis due to colder temperatures over time, as well with like good health, no malnutrition, and an active lifestyle and good blood flow, the size will generally be larger. And so, based on my understanding, other than genetic factors and having good nutrition, the temperature of the country you or your ancestors evolved in is the thing, because as you get to colder places, there's homeostasis and shrinkage. And so this makes perfect sense to me. And so it's not melanin, it's temperature, nutrition, genetic factors, a good healthy lifestyle where you're regulating cardiovascular health and blood flow. And so of course, the Africans who survived had to, run and climb things and hunt and get meat, right? In the early days, right? And so on. And so there you go. It's not melanin, but just temperature of the region that people evolved in. So, um, um, so anyway, what am I? I walk around in America. I go to a I go to a pub, and some guy says, "Hey, you're black, but you're dressed more posh than some other black folks I've seen." In other words, I was dressed well. And then I go to a tavern and some girl says, "Hey, it's Tyrone the Science Guy," which is the black analog to Bill Nye. And so my complexion is brown, right? And so from what I can ascertain, much of American consciousness sees me as a light-skinned black man. Now, I'm originally actually from Jamaica, and so in my genetic history contains Irish colonizers, Spanish colonizers, and then, of course, the African slaves. And so facially, I'm a combination of that Caucasian, European, but then also African. And so ultimately, if you wanted to say what I am, most Americans would agree that I'm a light-skinned black fellow. So based on how people have responded to me. And so I happened to be 6'4", and so on. And so I got the height trait. But then, so my flaccid ranges from between 5 to 6 inches from pelvic bone to tip, and then my erect ranges from 9 to 10 inches from pelvic bone to tip. And so what that means is that if the average in India is 5.12 and then the US is 5.16, my erect size is twice the size of the average man in America or the average Indian guy. And the fact that that is true is messed up, because evolution is just kind of this non-benevolent variance, right? And so if you're a female who watches pornography, you may know of the male porn star Fred Dingo, who's called Mandingo. And so he's a 5'7" black fellow. And in the description of the videos, you may see that his size is exaggerated to 13 inches. But ultimately, his bone pressed erect length is somewhere in the 9 to 9.5 inch range. Whereas I'm this 6'4" brown fellow who has a bone pressed erect length of 10 inches, right? And so at 24 years old, I had intercourse with a 35-year-old woman 3 times. And the first time we were successful, she actually had about 4 leg shaking orgasms. And so this woman, has years of sexual experience, and this was only my second ever time. Right? Subsequent times, she would say, "Oh my God," or whatever. And so if you're a female, right, know that there are not even any 13-inch bone press direct length dicks. If the Mandingo video description says that, Mandingo's actual BPEL is between 9 and 9.5, and they're adding like 3.5 to 4 inches on that accepted measurement. And so in the porn industry, I could be exaggerated to 13.5 in terms of size, but BPEL I get up to maximum 10, right? So, and they use camera angles and petite females to sort of highlight size. Anyway, so we live in this world where everyone and everything is kind of lying. And so, in a way, if you're not lying, you're wrong. But anyway, that's a quite bleak way to view things. And so I talked to this girl at this strip joint, and she said she's had sex about 20 times, but in all that, only twice did she reach orgasm actually due to dick. And then meanwhile, I have sex once, and my partner has 4 orgasms. What is the orgasm multiplier with me versus average guy then, statistically? 40 times. That's also messed up, because I'm roughly twice the size of the average American or the average Indian guy, right? And so the people in the size doesn't matter group are the girls who are just being nice. They're not telling you the truth. It does. And so intensity and frequency of orgasm is greater with larger size, and it does feel better. So at the same time, the G-spot is not very far inside the vagina, and so average size still can bring a woman to orgasm, but it's not the same as me. Now I'll talk about Julio Gomez, or Break. And so depending on the video, there's one video that says he's 15 inches, and multiple videos that say he's 14 inches. And so if you actually, pause any video that claims he's 14 inches and choose any frame, realistically, if you compare his hand size, which is his hand holding it, and say realistically what is his BPEL, you're really gonna get that at best he's in the 10 to 11 range, right? And then my BPL is 10, right? So so they're adding like 3-4 inches to his BPL. And so in other words, I'm saying that my BPL is maximum 10, and then from my estimation, Brake's BPL is maximum 11. So um, um, but there are videos that claim he's 14. So because everything's just kind of lying. So um, so so anyway, and so Mandingo's 5'7", Brake is stated to be 6 foot, and then Dredd is 6'5", right? And so, yeah. Yeah. So, anyway, I talked to another 35-year-old, not the one I've had intercourse with, and she said, that she was a 5'1", 35-year-old woman, and she said that I, had a baby, and post having that baby, my vagina never reverted to its former tightness. And so now I kind of like size in terms of, long and thick, because she's loose post childbirth. And so, by the way, the head of a baby is much larger than in thickness than any penis in existence when erect. So, and so she said that basically she selects for size. And so, by the way, she started talking to me because I was an attractive, tall, brown man that she figured was packing, and she was correct. And so I'll say again, my BPL is 10, and then Julio Gomez, even though it may say on some videos that he's 14, if you actually look at the frames of the videos and get accurate scale, at best it's going to be 11 if you measure it properly. And so they're, in the industry of pornography, they add 3 inches to the actor's BPL at least. 3 to 4 inches. So yeah. So anyway, yeah. The other thing that the industry does is that they pair the actor with a woman who's petite. So the average height Caucasian woman in America is 5'4", and so the partner that I've had intercourse with was 5'10", 160 pounds, and really heavy on the backside. And so when you're with such a large woman, the size is not highlighted. And so much of the scenes in those videos are done with female actors who are 5'6" and shorter. because you have a taller, larger girl with a larger backside, the camera effective size is sort of diminished. So, um, so, so, anyway, yeah. Um, yeah. So, for any consciousness that doesn't know what BPEL is, it means you put a ruler, you press it to your pelvic bone, uh, from like the top of your dick, and then you measure to where the head stops. And so it's important that it's from the top, it's not from the bottom. You do some kind of crazy non-standard from the bottom measurement for me, you could get 12 for me. But BPEL, I'm 10, right? And so that measurement could go into the statistics book, right? That is such that the average in America is 5.16. And so you have a whole lot of consciousness, especially in the porn industry, that's just using exaggerated non-standard sizes. So, um, so, uh, so, um, yeah. So anyway, by now you understand why I prefaced the video that this was for adults, because I'm talking about, uncomfortable truths that are for more mature audiences. But yeah. Yeah. And so, yes, my kind of size has made a woman have 4 leg shaking orgasms in one session, made her start saying, "Oh my God," made her periodically scream. And yeah, but not to fear, there's a whole sea of other attributes that are extremely important to a female other than size, such as intelligence level, confidence, stability, happiness, direction, vision, aesthetic attractiveness facially, talent in sports, in music, and whatever. So many other dimensions to what a man could be that are, in large part, much more important than size in terms of an actual profound relationship. So now we're going to get into something interesting, which is the concept of no matter what, a male is paying for sex. And so if you go to a strip club, you're paying the strippers to do sexy things or to give you a private dance. If you are in Nevada and you're paying for a prostitute, you're paying for it. If you are getting married, you need to buy a ring for your wife. You need to pay for the wedding expenses. If you're dating a girl, you'll take her out to a restaurant, you'll buy her food, you'll buy her clothes. And so it seems that the only paradigm where you can break out of either directly or indirectly paying for sex is by becoming a male porn star. And so the female porn star you're having sex with is still ultimately having sex for money. but that money is not coming from you. It's coming from the film that the two of you create, becoming somewhat popular and desirable such that people or consciousness are willing to pay a subscriber's fee to view that content. In which, if the video is especially popular, then it makes a lot of money from paying subscribers to that content, and then both the male and the female in that scene get paid. And so the female is still getting money from having sex, but it's not coming from the male who's having sex with her. It's coming from the resulting popularity of the video. So yeah. And so, however, the whole male breadwinner paradigm is a thing of the past. With the whole equality of pay for women who are doing similarly complex work as men, right? You have in some ways relationships where the female earns more money than the male. And so I had friends where the male was a mathematician who was lazier and not into learning about computer science, and then the female was a computer scientist who had a higher paying job. And so because of equality of pay and certain feminist movements that I do support, and that if a female is solving the same difficulty of problem as a male, she should be earning the same amount of money, right? Has led to this thing where there are relationships where the female is the breadwinner, or at least earning more money than the male, right? And so I know of a person who got divorced and was actually the person contributing financially to the relationship, and was a female, and upon divorce, half of that female's money went to the husband. And so in 2025, right, it's not half the man's money that goes to the female. It can be half the female's money that goes to the male upon divorce, depending on whether that female is the one making the money. That happens in the present time. Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah. Now, selection, going back to that concept. The divorce rate in America is 50%. And so love is not actually meant to be spiritual thing in any way. It's just an infatuation due to detecting strong characteristics in the opposite sex that you can select for. And so if you have a male brain, if you have a male brain, and you see a woman who shows signs of high estradiol, you will select for her. And what is estradiol? It's a hormone indicating fertility. And so basically the ideal waist to hip ratio of a high estradiol woman is 0.7. And so if a male sees that, says, okay, those hips indicate high estradiol. And then that high estradiol is also correlated with larger breast size. And so the whole idea of hourglass figure and large breasts is an ideal, because to the male brain, that screams, you have high estradiol, you are highly fertile. I am evolutionarily incentivized to impregnate you. And so let's say if a male is swiping through Tinder profiles, the brain is doing quick calculations based on the images of the female's estradiol level, right? And so let's say a female is swiping through Tinder, same kind of thing. Where she's selecting for strong traits in the male. Now, because civilization has transitioned from physical work to largely mental work, you have this whole thing where a strong man is not necessarily coupled to physical attributes. And so, for example, is Sam Altman particularly muscular or physically intimidating? Is Bill Gates particularly muscular or physically intimidating? No, but they're strong because they're intelligent. And so when a female looks at the body of a tall, muscular man with a 6 to 8 pack and a cut body, precisely because that strength and athleticism was pivotal in older times when men had to hunt for food, the female brain has not yet evolved out of seeing those physical attributes as sexy and to select for. But ultimately, a whole chunk of men make money doing intellectual things which do not require an especially aesthetic or sexy body. And so what I may predict is that over time, the female brain will see a very muscular man and not even consider that as sexy once things become extremely meta-intellectual. Right? And so anyway, and so the unfortunate truth is that in the paradigm of non-benevolent variance in evolution, you have people who have been given many talents, you could call it given, or evolved to have many talents, and then those that have experienced, an unfortunate fate. And so I go to I'm walking around this building, then out of the elevator comes this guy being wheeled around in a wheelchair, drooling into a rag in his mouth. And so you put that picture on a Tinder profile, pretty much every female consciousness is going to swipe left. Because none of that information indicates that I want to reproduce with this person. So anyway, why would someone as intelligent as me start talking about porn and being a male porn star? And that's because I've isolated it as one of the only ways to transition from directly or indirectly paying for sex to getting paid to have sex, and with quite attractive females. So anyway, as a light skin, I actually literally submitted an application to Blacked and BlackedRaw.com, and my size is comparable to Mandingo and Anton when I'm fully erect. As to whether, they would ever get back to me, who knows? But, the whole paradigm is that based on moral standards, there hasn't existed a person who could simultaneously be respected in intellectual and academic endeavors and industry, who also has videos on the internet of them having sex. And so, depending on things, I'd like to be the person who breaks that paradigm. It's like, yeah, well, I'm a technical nerd, but there's also videos of me having sex on the internet. Why not? So, anyway, so, yeah, this has been Selection by the Deus Ex Machina. Subscribe to the channel. This video will indeed be marked not made for kids.